Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome back to the Humble Servant Homestead. Today we are out here. As y'all can see right here next to me, I have quite a bit of tools, and I'm going to show you how we use these tools here in the garden in just a moment. Okay, so over the period of time since we have started a YouTube channel and we have been gardening here on the homestead, we have the question asked, how do you keep your garden so clean? What do you do? So guys, today is that day that we are going to show you all the different tips on how we keep our garden clean here on the homestead. Okay, so no further ado, come along with us. I'm going to show you all the different methods that we use here today. All right, so first up, what we're going to go ahead and do is that little old tarp method. Okay, so what you want to do when you first start your garden, you want to come on in, you want to go ahead and smother out those weeds. Right now, if y'all watch some of our previous videos, y'all will see that we have used that tarp method here on the homestead. Now what you're going to go ahead and do, and there is quite a different ways that you can use the tarp method to get rid of those weeds quickly. So the first way that I'm going to show you all how you can go about doing that is first, and this is just in case if you guys don't have a rotor tiller at home or a tiller in general. All right, so what you would do in your space that you're going to go ahead and plant your garden. All right, say for instance, this is where I'm going to plant my garden, right in this spot. I would come on out with a tarp, preferably a black tarp. Here on the homestead, guys, we use whatever we have to smother out weeds, right? So you're going to put this tarp in the area where you're going to plant and simply leave it for about 2 weeks. And what will happen, because the grass needs sunlight to grow, okay? And so pretty much what you're doing, you are blocking out the sunlight from hitting that grass, and so that grass will go dormant and it will start withering away. It will pretty much die underneath. Now there are even some benefit from using your tarp to smother out those grass or weeds underneath. Once that grass breaks down, it also helps to build your soil and also the microbes in the dirt. All right, so that is one of the methods that you can use on your homestead for getting rid of weeds. Now the next method that I'm going to go ahead and show you guys here today is the method with the tiller. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go ahead, crank up my tiller, and it is going to be a little bit noisy here, guys. All right, so what I would do, I tell you what, instead of cranking it up, I'll just go ahead and run you all through what I will do. Okay, and so we are back here now. Tip number 2 would be the tiller and also the tarp, guys. Now instead of cranking up this tiller right now, eventually I will crank the tiller up just to give you all another demonstration. But what you would want to do whenever you're going to get ready to start your garden, if you have a tiller at home or a rotor tiller, what you would do, you would still go ahead and put your tarp down. But before you put your tarp down, you want to go ahead and run your tiller. And what you're going to do when you run that tiller, guys, you're going to weaken the roots of the weeds underneath, and then you put your tarp on top of where you just till. And what that will do, it will also helps to kill those weeds super fast. Okay, now here on the homestead, you all have seen how we go about preparing our dirt, and even when we first started, it was so much weed in that area. And so what I did, I got my tiller, and like I told you, this weed here, I am not worrying about these weeds because I know once I come on in 1 or 2 times and cultivate that ground, I would eventually go ahead and weaken out those weeds. I would eliminate those weeds. Now, one of the things that you want to also keep in mind, okay, and so why I come back on in and I come on in and I clean my garden, because you have to remember those weeds, they grow seeds, okay? And so if y'all can see right here, these little seeds right here, now as your grass grow and it reach that maturity, put out the seeds developed and they drop, okay? So now those are the seeds that you have to come back in and take care of, because what happened, they start germinating, and so that is the next generation of the seeds that you want to go ahead and get rid of, okay? Now, so, and that is where some of the other tools come in play here on the homestead. All right, so remember, keep in mind those little seeds, you want to come back on in and get rid of those seeds as they germinate. All right. Okay, and so right here I just ran my rototiller. Now what I want to go ahead and do is show you all what happens when I run this rototiller here inside of the garden. And like that's it, that is why I said I am not worried about these weeds here, because I know once I run it, I turn that dirt over on these weeds, it will start to kill them out. And one of the reasons why this tiller right here is so helpful, because look at this weed right here, or grass right here. If you notice, it is just bare root. There is no dirt on these roots here. And so what that does, it helps to weaken this grass right here, okay? And so it is even quite a bit more. Look at this Bermuda, no dirt on the roots, and so it helps to weaken the grass. And so that is why I say once you till it, if you want, you can also come on in back with your tarp and put on here to help to eliminate them even more. Now this Bermuda grass right here, guys, I just want to let y'all know, if y'all do have this right here inside of your garden, it is a very, very tough grass to get rid of, okay? So definitely when I planted a new spot down there, I had to come on in about 3 times, 2 or 3 times or so, to eliminate this Bermuda grass here. And so now I am free from Bermuda grass. And I also did do a little bit of that spot with the Tarp Method as well. All right, so that right there is what the rototiller will do for you. It will pull that grass up out of the ground and weaken the root system on that grass. And so that is another tip here that we use on the homestead. Okay, and so we are back, and yes, I do have 2 tools here in my hand. This right here is the Hula hoe, and this do play a part of also helping to keep my garden clean. And this right here is also a hoe that I use a lot here in the garden. All right, so first up, I believe I'll go ahead and use the Hula hoe, show you guys how we go about using it here on the homestead. Now in these particular rows right here, I will be coming in to clean these rows right here, guys. Simple reason why I am not planning on cultivating this row right here. Over there I will be cultivating, so I am not going to worry about using any of these tools to get rid of the weeds. I'm just going to go ahead and let the tiller do the work for me over there. All right, so and believe it or not, these right here is pretty much left in the garden for you all for the demonstration purposes, okay? And of course I am not planting much in the garden right now. But once I have stuff planted inside of the garden, one of the things that you want to make sure that you keep in mind is to make sure you keep your garden weed free. Once you have food growing inside of your garden, keep it weed free. Now the reason why I said that, guys, is you don't want your food or whatever it is that you are growing competing with weeds. All right, now you will even sometimes find the weeds real nice, green and lush, and the actual thing that you plant in the garden look like it's struggling. Now the simple reason why is because it has a neighbor next door stealing all the sugar. Okay, so make sure you pull your weeds or hula hoe your weeds or hoe your weeds away from the food that you're growing, so that way there will be no competition for nutrients and also even water. Okay, because those are things that plants need to survive. All right, so let's get on in here. So right inside of this row right here, and yes, I do keep inside of my rows clean as well. Now this hula hoe, what I would do, I would simply come on in and I would scrape that weed just like that, or I would even do it like that as well. And so what that is doing, it is pretty much cutting that weed. You can see where it cut it from out of the dirt. All right, and so even with these tools right here, it is very little bending, hurting your back. So that is why I like these right here. And even I'm also thinking to put a longer stick on this one right here, just so I can even eliminate, you know, bending, period. All right, so that is how we use the hula hoe here on the Homestead to get rid of the weeds inside of our rows. Now, okay, and also another method that you all can use whenever you're getting ready to plant, what you would want to do is you would want to come on in and cultivate wherever you're going to plant, right? And so right here, as y'all can see, that I do have some rows here inside of this garden. Now in a previous video that I did, and y'all can check those videos out, and just so y'all can get a better understanding of how we go about doing it. So what we went ahead and did is we put down landscaping fabric inside of our garden up on the top side, and that right there also helps to prevent the weed tremendously. You don't have to worry about weeds growing anywhere, only except where you have those holes inside of the landscaping fabric. Now that is also another method that you can also use to help to eliminate weed inside of the garden. Yes, remember I said I was going to show and share with you all everything that I do here on the homestead to help keep weeds down, right? And so that is what I'm doing here today, guys, because guess what? I also want your garden to be as beautiful and looking just as good as this one here. All right, so yes, remember you can use landscaping fabric to also suppress weed inside of your garden. All right, and so what we're going to go ahead and do now is pretty much show you all how we go about using the hoe inside of the garden to eliminate weeds. Now, one of the things is, if you're going to plant a garden, 9 times out of 10 you will have weeds. Okay, remember that part that I show you guys about the grass seeds? Yes. And so what you want to do, especially inside of this garden right here that is established. Now what I do on a regular, all right, I would come on down here, probably depends, at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, depends on how much weed is growing up inside the garden. And I would call it maintenance. Okay, I would come on in and make sure that any weeds that is popping up, I don't give it a chance to go ahead and put seeds on, because if it put those seeds on and those seeds mature and fall off in the garden, 9 times out of 10 next year you will be dealing with those seeds, and you will have a lot of seeds in your garden. So no further ado, come on over here on this side and I will show you guys how I go about using the hoe. All right, now there is 2 different ways that I use the hoe here inside of the garden. It's a scraping method, or a scrape, pretty much a scrape. All right, and that is more so like on the easier weeds that are not hard to come out. And if you remember, I did sharpen my hoe here, and it helps real well to just cut right through those weeds, just like that right there. And even on the sides, like I said, it's pretty much just a scrape. All right, I'm just doing a little scrape there. And so if I come right here where I have a bit of a tougher weed that is hard to come out, what I would do, I would go ahead and just simply chop it out of the ground. All right. And also another thing, if I don't want to bend my back too much with this hoe here, what I would do, guys, is I would pretty much hold this hoe straight up just like this right here, and I would do just like that. Okay, you see that? And that's just to keep my back from bending too much, because of course over a period of time when you're out here gardening and you're always down low, you're always bending, sometimes your back ache a little bit, but you find ways to ease that pain. All right, and so like I said, I just hold the hoe real close to me just like this, and it's just a motion just like that, cutting out any little weeds that inside of the garden. Okay. All right, guys, and so that right there is it. I pray that I touched on quite a bit here on how you guys can go ahead and keep your garden just as clean as this right here. Now, there's one thing that I forgot, and I'm going to show it with you all as well. This is something that a lot of people don't like to do in their garden, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. Yes, at times I do come on down and I use this method as well. It's pretty much just that old-fashioned, you could either bend your back, and what I find sometimes, I would normally walk around with a stick, and I would use this stick as a support for me. I just get on down and look at that, and I just pull those weeds. Sometime I'll pick them and drop them, breaks back down into the soil, helps to build your soil. Okay, but don't be afraid to come on out, guys. Don't be afraid to come on out and pull some weeds. Okay, if you have young ones at home, hey, let them come on down and help you pull some weeds, because guess what? That garden is not just benefiting you, it is benefiting them as well. All right, so in your raised beds, I'm going to touch on that just a little bit. Inside of your raised bed, usually raised bed, you have nice, soft, loose, fluffy soil. Most of the time you don't really need tools like these right here. It's pretty much you just going in there, pulling out whatever few weeds that comes up inside of your raised bed. Okay, so this is more so for that traditional garden. And yes, I touch on it just a little bit, and we'll be wrapping up shortly. But of course, you know, yes, I do come on in with my rototiller and I do cultivate the ground. Now I know that there is many different methods out there of cultivating your garden. A lot of people do rootstock method, a lot of people do Hula culture, or even a no-till bed. All right, now you have to remember, This method here, our forefathers, they plowed the ground, and it was not as easy as it is today. They was using oxen and using those little thing behind to dig into the ground and turn it over. Now, just the other day, I remember my mom was telling me that my great uncle was actually using that same method back home in Jamaica to cultivate his farm. He used to plant a lot of tobacco and all that stuff. His name is Uncle Babai. That's who we call him. And yes, he did have a pretty big garden as well. And like I said, it runs in the blood, guys. This is something that we do, and I want to also get y'all to do it as well so y'all can grow your own food. It is very important, but nonetheless, I pray that y'all took something away from this video here and that it was helpful to you guys. And I just want to say peace and blessings to each and every one of you all out there. And if you like the content y'all got here today, throw that thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. And tell a friend, tell someone about this channel here so you all can also be ready to grow some food as well. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you all out there. Have a blessed day.